So finally, Ivory Coast have been crowned champions of the 2023 African Cup of Nations. But how did Ivory Coast manage to pull this through? Well, it didn't start just like that. It started like a fairy tale, where Ivory Coast were in Group A of the 2023 African Cup of Nations as hosts. They came up against Guinea-Bissau, Nigeria, and Equatorial Guinea in Group A of the 2023 AFCON. Now, the Ivorians started their tournament with a 2-0 victory over Guinea-Bissau, giving hope to many Ivorian fans. But in their second game against the Super Eagles of Nigeria, the Ivorians didn't come to the party. They lost by 1-0 against the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Captain Truce Ekong of Nigeria scored the only goal in the game from a spot kick that gave Nigeria the 3 maximum points. Ivory Coast then came up against Equatorial Guinea in their final group game, and they had to win this game at all costs to solidify their qualification to the next round. Unfortunately, they couldn't win the game. Equatorial Guinea surprised them. They beat them by 4-0, and Ivory Coast looked like the tournament had come to an end. But there was hope for them because Ivory Coast were lingering in the 3rd position according to the Confederation of African Football's regulation for the 2023 AFCON. Well, the teams that end up at the 3rd position have a lifeline. 4 out of the 6 teams at the group stages will get to make it out of the group stages and join the other teams in the round of 16, and Ivory Coast managed to pull through out of the group stages with just 3 points. But there was one issue with the Ivorian national team. They didn't like their coach, that is a French coach, Jean-Louis Gasset. So they decided to part ways with him and employ their own coach, who was serving as an assistant coach. The only credential that he had was that he was an assistant coach and also their under-23 coach in the past. Now, his name is Emres Faye, a very unknown figure in the coaching world, but yet still he was able to do the job. Now, in the round of 16 stage, Ivory Coast were supposed to come up against Senegal, who had won the 2021 AFCON. They were coming into this AFCON on the back of so many success, and it looked like Ivory Coast were not going to win this game. The game started with Senegal scoring the first goal, but Franck Kessié was able to get the equalizer for Ivory Coast to send the game into extra time. At extra time, both teams failed to score. Then the game moved to penalty shootout, and that was where Ivory Coast defeated Senegal to boot them out of the competition. Then Ivory Coast made it to the round of 16 stage, where Ivory Coast came up against Mali. This was a game that was going to be very tough. Mali scored the first goal in the second half, but Ivory Coast managed to get the equalizer around the 90th minute when Simeon Edingra scored the equalizer for Ivory Coast. Then the game went into extra time, where Ivory Coast scored the winner to ensure they qualified to the semi-finals of the 2023 African Cup of Nations. At the semi-finals of the 2023 African Cup of Nations, Ivory Coast came up against DR Congo. DR Congo had surprised many, defeating the likes of Egypt to make it this far to the tournament, and the only way that Ivory Coast could make it to the finals is when they defeat DR Congo. That was going to be a tedious task, but Emres Faye's team were able to ensure that they did the job in 90 minutes, beating DR Congo by 1-0. Then Ivory Coast made it to the finals. This was a coach that only came in as a caretaker, and now he has the big task of helping Ivory Coast win their 3rd African Cup of Nations. Coach Emres Faye started his career 2 years when Ivory Coast had won their first AFCON title in the year 1992, and 3 years after he retired from international football, Ivory Coast won their 2nd AFCON title in the year 2015, and now the chance to win Ivory Coast's 3rd AFCON title was on him. Can Coach Emres Faye deliver that? Well, Ivory Coast were supposed to come up against Nigeria in the finals. This was going to be a very, very big game. We all know what Nigeria has been able to do. They knocked out the likes of Cameroon, Angola and also knocked out South Africa in their quest to win the 2023 AFCON. And guess what? The game started at the stadium of Ebimpe, where 65,000 fans were there in their numbers to watch the match. And guess what? Nigeria scored the first goal in the 38th minute when their captain, Nkommo, once again after scoring a goal in the group stages to beat Ivory Coast, scored once again to give Nigeria the lead in this particular encounter. Ivory Coast were not going to give up. They've come back from several games, so they knew it was possible to come back. Then they kept on probing and pushing. In the 63rd minute, that was when their vice-captain, Frankesi, was able to score the equalizer thanks to a header to get Ivory Coast back in the game. When everybody thought the game was going to go into extra time, well, guess what? Ivory Coast had different plans. Their youngster, 22 years of age, that is Simeon Idingra, managed to send in a nice cross, and Sebastian Haller, who had just fought cancer about a year or two ago, managed to be the one who scored the winning goal to help Ivory Coast win their third AFCON title in history, beating three-time AFCON champions, that is Nigeria, to win the AFCON. And that was how Ivory Coast managed to seal their third AFCON title in history. Isn't this a wonderful story? Well, congratulations to Ivory Coast, and hopefully the next 12 months, Ghana will be back at the AFCON in Morocco.